What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be going over everything you need to start producing music. And to be honest, it's a lot less than you think it is. Everybody goes out and says you need to spend $10,000 on a massive studio setup just to start making some beats in your bedroom, and it's just not true. You really don't need that much. And I'm going to be going through exactly what I started with and what I recommend you guys get for when you're very first starting out with your production journey. But before we get into it, if you guys like this video and you want to learn a whole lot more about music production and how to produce songs and the sort of gear that you need and all that sort of good stuff, make sure you hit the subscribe button, give the video a like, because it really does help out the channel and really helps support me. So thank you so much for doing that, and let's get into the video. So first off, I just want to say you guys don't need any crazy expensive gear to start producing music. You don't need to go out and spend $1,000 on monitors and $5,000 on some crazy PC or anything like that. You just don't need it, especially when you're first starting out. Music gear for the most part is super expensive, and for the person just starting out, I really wouldn't recommend going out and spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a bunch of fancy gear, because to be honest, when you're first starting out, it doesn't make you a better producer. Learning how to run your software and training your ears a little bit with the gear that you've got in the long run will help you out so much. I know a bunch of people that started their production journeys with some Apple earbuds and a crappy laptop, and now they're getting signed to major labels. So it just goes to show you don't need super fancy stuff to actually get started in the industry and actually just learn how to produce music and learn the basics of everything. And then once you've got the basics down and you really know that you want to take it more seriously, then consider spending a bit of extra money on some better gear. So the first thing you're going to need is a computer, and whether that's a laptop or a desktop style computer doesn't really matter, just as long as you've got enough RAM and enough processing power to be able to run your software properly. I'm not going to go into all the laptops or PCs or anything that I recommend, because that's just a whole nother video for itself. If you guys want to see that video, let me know down in the comments. But what I would recommend is something with at least 8 GB of RAM, pretty decent CPU, and at least 1 TB of storage to store all your samples and your presets and all that sort of stuff. Having at least 8 GB of RAM is probably the most important thing in my eyes. Take it from me, I started producing on something that had, I think it was 4 GB of RAM. It might have even been less. It was this crappy laptop that I bought secondhand from someone at my dad's work or something like that for like $30, and it was terrible. I'd run like 3 plugins and I'd get all this crackling and interference, and it was so hard to work with, but I was able to do it. I was still able to learn all the basics, and it worked good enough for when I was just starting out. But then once I upgraded my computer and got something a bit better, you know, it helped so much. Now I run a 2020 MacBook Pro, and it's amazing. It's perfect for anything I want to do. It has no trouble running like 50, 60, 70 channels, a bunch of plugins and heaps of processing and everything. But honestly, when you're first starting out, if you don't already have a MacBook, I would not recommend going out and buying one. It's not worth it if you're just buying it for music production when you're just starting out. The base model 16-inch MacBook Pro is like $4,000. You can buy a good PC laptop for like $1,000, probably even less. It's got like 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, a terabyte hard drive, just everything that you need that's going to be really good for music production. So unless you've got a whole bunch of money sitting around that you're just willing to spend, I wouldn't recommend getting a MacBook Pro if you're buying it just for music production when you're first starting out. It's just not worth it. The next thing you're going to need is your software, or your DAW, your Digital Audio Workstation. And that's the software you use to actually produce all of your music. Now, I'm not going to run through all of the different DAWs and their ups and downs and all that sort of stuff, because honestly, it's personal preference. Most of the DAWs out there will have a good trial version that you can get and test out and see if you like it or not. So just run through a bunch of the different ones, whether it be FL Studio or Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools, or whatever it is. Get the trial version of each of them, see which one you think is easiest for you to work in, and just go with that one. Or if you've got friends that produce music, or there's a YouTuber that you like that uses a specific software, get that and follow along with them, because it'll be so much easier to learn something that you're comfortable with. And honestly, they all do the exact same thing. The only one I wouldn't recommend if you're producing more like EDM or like just hip hop beats where you're not really recording much live stuff, I wouldn't go with Pro Tools. It's more built for like live recording, and the UI is just super confusing, and the MIDI capabilities, while they are there, they're not good. Like, in my opinion, they're not good at all. It is still an amazing DAW, and it is the industry standard for recording studios, but it's just more geared towards the live stuff. I myself use Ableton and I love it. I would recommend it to anyone, but again, it's all personal preference. The next thing you're gonna need is a good set of headphones. And these are probably the most important thing you're gonna need. Like I said earlier, I know people that started off with Apple earbuds and made absolute bangers with them because they actually learned what the headphones sound like and how to get a song to sound good within those headphones. And honestly, you can probably do that with any set of headphones as long as you've got a good enough ear. And what I mean by learning what the headphones sound like is not listening to what your own production stuff sounds like, but listening to what other professionally made songs sound like within those headphones, within the sort of genre that you're trying to make, and seeing if you can recreate those sounds within those headphones. That will teach you so much about how your headphones actually sound, and getting a mix to sound good in those headphones, just like the mix in whatever your favorite song is, whatever your reference track is. That'll train your ears so much to get used to those headphones, and you'll be able to pump out some really, really good tracks. But if you've got a little bit of money to spend, like say $100 or $200, a good pair of studio headphones go a long way. And honestly, you could go without having studio monitors if you've got a nice set of headphones that you learn really well. I myself use the Audio-Technica M40s. I've also had the M50s, which are the next step up, but the M40s I found had a bit of a flatter frequency response and they work really, really well. I could also recommend the Beyerdynamic DT770s or the Beyerdynamic DT990s. They are both amazingly good headphones and you will not regretting buying any of them. Now, to be completely honest, that is everything you need to start producing music. You don't need to go out and buy a fancy pair of studio monitors or spend $10,000 on some crazy PC. All you need is your laptop, your DAW, and a nice set of headphones. That's it. That's all you need to actually start producing music and start creating some absolute bangers and just learning all the basics of how your DAW works and how you can actually create some music. But if you're past that basic stage and you're looking to take everything to the next level and you've got a little bit of money you're able to spend, this is all the stuff that I would recommend you getting. First up is a pair of studio monitors. I myself use the Yamaha HS7s and they're incredible. Now, for you buying studio monitors, definitely do your research. Don't go out and buy something just because it's cheap and you want some sort of speakers, because they won't help you at all. You need something that's got quite a flat frequency response and something that's actually going to help you out in the long run. Going out and buying like $100 pair of speakers just because you think you want some speakers and you think it's going to help you, it's not going to. Do some research and save up that little bit of extra money to get a good proper pair of studio monitors that's really going to help you out. Like I said, I use the HS7s by Yamaha and I could recommend them any day. The KRK Rockets, also a really good speaker. And if you're first starting out, I'm saying you're probably producing in your bedroom. So a pair of 5-inch monitors will go a long way, and as long as they're a nice pair and you're not just spending $100 on a crappy pair of something that say they're studio monitors, don't do it. Save up some extra money and get something like the Yamahas or the Rockets or the Atoms. They're all really, really great monitors. Just go into your local music store and test them all out. Get some advice from the guys that work there because they know what they're talking about. And have a listen to them all. See which ones you like the best and go with them. Obviously, it all depends on your price range, but trust me, saving up that little bit of extra money for something a little bit more high-end is completely worth it. Now, once you get your studio monitors, you're gonna need an audio interface. Your audio interface is what converts all of the information put into it, say sound from a microphone or sound from the direct input from a guitar or anything like that. It converts all of that noise into digital information, puts it into your DAW so you're able to edit it and do whatever you need to with it. Also, what's gonna help run your studio monitors, because for the most part, you can't just get some monitors and plug them straight into your laptop. You can do that with some cables, but the sound quality is not going to be as good. because it's just running off the sound card from your laptop. Your audio interface runs all of that stuff for you, and trust me, it makes it sound a lot better. So the interface I use is the Complete Audio 6 by Native Instruments, and it's great. I like it a lot. It was just something that was within my price range and had enough inputs and outputs that were worth it for me. And pretty much the reason I got it is because it's got 2 mic inputs and it's got 2 headphone outs. If I've got somebody else in the studio and I need to run 2 microphones, or I need 2 sets of headphones for if I'm recording somebody, then that's perfect. That's exactly what I needed. But it's definitely not the cheapest option you can get. You can get something like the Scarlett 2i2 for about $200, but there's also stuff that's a whole lot cheaper than that. There's the Behringer UM2. While not the best quality, when you're just starting out, it's probably going to be everything that you need, and you can get that for like 75 Australian dollars. So for you guys in the US, it's what, like 50 bucks? Cheap as chips, and trust me, it's gonna make all the difference for you. And you want to run a microphone, you're definitely gonna need an audio interface. Now, speaking of microphones, it is definitely something you're going to need, especially if you want to record your own vocals or you want to make YouTube videos like I do, and you just need something that's going to record a voice or record a guitar or record some drums or just basically record anything. So there's 2 different types of microphones you can get. There's dynamic and condenser microphone. And the type of microphone you get really depends on what you want to use it for. I'm not going to run through and break down all of the differences between the microphones and the exact ones that I recommend and the reasons why, because again, that is a whole nother video. If you guys want to see that, let me know down in the comments and I'll get that filmed for you guys. But basically, a condenser microphone is going to pick up a whole lot more information around the room. So it's going to pick up the reverb of the room. It's going to pick up all that sort of stuff in the background. Your dynamic microphone is a microphone that's going to pick up all of the noise that's very, very close to it. Your condenser microphones may be better for vocals in an audio booth, or like me, I use a condenser because I don't have to have it sitting super close to my face to be able to record vocals for my YouTube videos, because when I'm doing my tutorial stuff, I don't like having the microphone hanging down in front of my face or anything. It just doesn't work for me and it just gets super distracting. Whereas your dynamic microphone might be better for something, say if you want to do podcasting or you've got multiple people sitting in a room talking into microphones. Your dynamic microphones are only going to pick up what's directly in front of it. It's not going to pick up all the other people around you or anything like that. So I use the Rode NT USB. I wouldn't recommend getting this mic if you've got an audio interface, because the USB microphones just generally aren't as good. But I had this one before I bought all of my other gear, so I've just kept with it, and I probably won't buy another one until I can afford something a little bit more high end. This works good enough for me now, and it records some good audio, so literally that's all I need for it. But I could recommend the Audio-Technica AT2020 or the Rode NT1A as some good condenser microphones. And if you've got a little bit more money to spend and you want something that's dynamic mic, a Shure SM7B, sure you guys all have seen those. It's what pretty much all of the streamers use and all of the big YouTubers use, because they're great microphones. Or if you want something a little bit cheaper than that, the Rode Procaster, both amazing dynamic mics. The next thing you might want to get is a MIDI keyboard. And for you guys out there that play piano or sort of know your way around a piano / keyboard a bit, they're definitely worth getting. I don't use one myself. I used to have one, but I just never used it. I really prefer writing my stuff out in MIDI with my mouse, pretty much because I can't coordinate my fingers and I just haven't had the time to teach myself. I'm not going to go through all of the different stuff. I had I think it was an Ovation one, and it was great. It was really good. And the reason I got it was because A, it was cheap, but also they have weighted keys, and weighted keys are a must. Your weighted keys basically give your keyboard a more natural feel. If you've got unweighted keys and you try playing it, trust me, it's not easy. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel good. Weighted keys feel more similar to like a piano would feel, where you've got that bit of resistance on the keys to make it feel nice. Anyway, like I said, I don't use one, but for you guys that want one, they're definitely worth getting. They are 100% worth it. And yeah, Novation or Alesis, they both make really good ones. Now, the final thing I'm going to recommend to you guys is a Splice subscription. Splice is a platform where you get a bunch of samples and a bunch of plugins. They recommend you free plugins. You can buy plugins on there, and they do a really good rent to own system. Say a plugin's $200, and most plugins are around that price, if not way more expensive. So you guys might want to get Serum, which I think is about $250 US, which for the average person that's just starting out probably don't have that money to spend on it. But with Splice, you can use their rent-to-own system, and I think Serum is about $10 US every month. And once you've paid off that $250 price, that plugin is yours to own and keep. And then they've got samples. They've got literally everything, every sample and every plugin that you really need and could ever really want is on Splice. So that is definitely a subscription I do recommend. I use Splice myself, not so much for samples because I have such a big sample library already. I use it if I need some vocals here and there, but I definitely use it for plugins. All my Ozone stuff is paid through via Splice. My Serum was paid through via Splice. Pretty much all the plugins I have, I got through Splice that were either free ones that they recommend or the paid ones through their rent to own, because, you know, I don't make a crazy amount of money and I can't afford to spend, say on Ozone or Isotope stuff, $1,000 for plugins. I can't afford that. So Splice, I can do the rent to own, splits it all up into monthly plans, and it makes it completely manageable. So again, I would definitely recommend you guys getting that. And that, guys, is basically everything you need to start your music production journey. A laptop with at least 8 gig of RAM, some good headphones, your DAW, and then once you get into it a bit and you've got a bit more money to spend on your music gear, maybe get a better laptop if your current one isn't up to scratch. Then some decent studio monitors like the Yamaha HS7s, audio interface, a decent microphone, and then a Splice subscription. So guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, you learned something, and you want to learn a lot more about music production, make sure you hit the subscribe button, give the video a like, leave some comments, do all that sort of good stuff, and I will see you in the next one.